when Nina and Edvard Grieg were distracted, so when they then came and entered the living room, there was a Steinway piano waiting for them. And you see here, this is the original piano stool they had. And this is one now used because we're having concerts quite regularly here. This piano is actually still used, so it's been restored inside. But obviously the body of the piano is the original Steinway from 1892. So you can imagine how they reacted. Grieg playing the piano, Nina started singing, and this was a usual sight. There's a black and white copy of a colour painting here, and Edvard playing piano, and while his wife singing by candlelight, and this kind of captures the musical relationship they had. He actually took poems by writers that he admired, turned them into songs, and then obviously his wife was the singer who could sing them how they should be sung. So they kind of collaborated in that way. Nina actually lived 28 years longer than her husband. So Grieg was 64 when he died in 1907, but Nina actually became 90 years of age. This is one of the last photographs of Nina. She passed away in 1935, and by the side of this is actually the only photograph we have of their baby Alexander before she died. So it's kind of interesting to have these side by side. You can compare Nina, and also there's a beautiful drawing of Nina. So here she's actually 39 years of age, and this is just the summer just before they decided to build this house. So this was actually drawn by a German artist when they had a trip to Rome with some friends. And you see Nina has short hair then. She always had short hair. She was a very modern woman. She travelled with her husband, she sang, she also drank and smoked cigars if she wanted to, and she was very social as a lady. So we could say that Grieg was perhaps the brains behind the home, but she was definitely the heart of this house. And they knew whatever the house looked like, that this portrait would hang in the living room. And there's a little Nina's writing desk here. You see how petite she was. She was also very petite like her husband. And inside the cabinet is a picture of Grieg's two lucky mascots, this troll and pig. So you can see those are the original mascots in the exhibition. He liked these little lucky things, but his most important mascot was his frog. So it was a little frog made of hard rubber, and he always had it with him, especially before concerts. He would give it a rub, and this was a little ritual that meant he was then ready to meet his public, whether he was going to play piano or whether he was going to conduct. So it just shows that he was never overly confident, always nervous before performing, and that he had these little good luck charms to carry with him. But he grew up in the centre of Bergen in a well-to-do family. His father here was British consul, but he was mainly a businessman. He carried on the family business of exporting fish. So the Griegs were known for fish and exporting over, especially back to Great Britain. But obviously, you had this is a big port, Bergen, so it's a very active port. This business was started by this man at the top. He was originally called Edvard Grieg. He came from Scotland, and he came to Bergen in the 1770s. And this is the great-grandfather of Edvard Grieg. So he actually switched the two vowels in his name around. So from Grieg, he turned it into Grieg. Him and his brother had this name. So all of the Griegs in Norway, or in the world, come from these two men. And they knew the fish business because they'd grown up in a fishing village in Scotland. But Grieg's mother came from quite a well-to-do family as well. Her father was a well-standing politician. He was actually in the room for the signing of the Constitution, the big kind of event in 1814. Edvard Grieg's mother was a very, very talented musical lady who studied music and had music in the household. She gave performances with the orchestra. She was a piano teacher, and obviously introduced her son to playing the piano when he was just a little boy. So he had a talented mother, he had a supportive father, he had an elder brother who continued the business. This is Little Grieg and Big Grieg, so they were given these nicknames when they were both in Leipzig, him and his brother. Unfortunately, his brother was very musically talented as well. He was cello, but he had the duty of the eldest son, whereas Edvard was actually supported by his father and was allowed them to try and become a composer, to try and make it. So, in a sense, very fortunate circumstances. And as you see, original furniture in quite an eclectic mix. They have a little bit of a few different styles. This is more popular of the day, this part of the furniture, but these two are very typical Viking styles. And this one with the dragon heads, so when you sat down, all the kind of bad spirits would leave through the mouths of the dragon. So kind of a nice, interesting mix that shows they had a lot of sides to their personalities. And even Japanese vases here, one here, one there. So they were they didn't travel east, they were only in Europe. Mainly because Grieg actually got very seasick. So he travelled a lot, but within Europe and mainly Denmark, Germany, and also, but he did love Italy. And this was a present from Danish friends for his 60th birthday. He called Denmark his second home, and Nina actually grew up in Copenhagen. That's where the two were reunited and fell in love. They were actually cousins. And this beautiful chandelier didn't come until his 60th birthday as well. Present from the ladies in Bergen, the society ladies, who wanted to put some light into his life because they'd had so much enjoyment from his music. And especially his books of lyric pieces for the piano, and many of them are very accessible to people, especially when they're learning piano. So it tends to have a lot of meaning to a lot of people. It's kind of been part of their childhood even. So he had an interesting compositions are very broad in different ways. But I think perhaps Peer Gynt is his most famous that people know. Morning Mood and Hall of the Mountain King, I think. But trolls are the early Peer Gynt, and trolls kind of do recur. The name of this house is the Troll Hill, Troldhaugen. He wrote many pieces for piano inspired by trolls, whether they're big thumping trolls or little trolls running around. And he even had his little lucky troll. So there are always trolls around, as I think. And in fact, him and his